history of Australia is dotted with women who have made important contributions to society and helped mould our nation. At the University of Melbourne, the eScholarship Research Centre develops tools and back-end interfaces to support research, particularly in the humanities and social sciences. One such tool is the Online Heritage Resource Manager, or ORM, which manages highly complex networks and can be used as a framework for analysis and research. The Research Centre has teamed up with the Australian Women's Register to tell part of this story, doing so through the use of an ORM and visualisation technologies. Nikki Henningham from the Australian Women's Register and Gavan McCarthy from the eScholarship Research Centre tell us about it. Nikki, tell me about the Australian Women's Register.
It started as an initiative that was basically prompted by concerns by women in the second wave feminist movement that their records were going to possibly get overlooked and turfed out and so on and so forth. So there was sort of this anxiety about making sure that women's records get preserved, and not only get preserved, but made useful to people in the research community, so making them public.
How has the ORM helped you achieve this?
Essentially what it enables us to do at the Australian Women's Register is create an online research tool for people who are interested in looking at Australian women's history and historical research.
Gavan, how have you helped to increase the Register's functions?
One of their more recent ARC-funded projects on women in leadership has led us to utilise some off-the-shelf open source visualisation technologies to analyse this data set that's been built over 10 years to try and find those subsets or clusters of women who've performed some sort of leadership role. And part of the driver there is to actually understand what is different about women in leadership as distinct from men in that area.
And what do the visualisations show?
Not only does this visualisation give us an indication of the cohesiveness of the second wave feminist movement in Australia, but it also shows us the story of the development of the Women's Archives Project and the Women's Register itself in the clusters that we see, in particular this one here, which is a good example. This is the result of a project on women in journalism, and the central node here is the Walkley Awards for Australian Excellence in Journalism, and what we have sitting around them are the women that have won some of these awards. This visualisation shows the same data but using a different visual metaphor. We've only actually experimented with two at this stage, but we can see already that the social connectedness, that small worldness that often seen in and talked about in contemporary social media, is actually reflected in this historic data set. And we can see here that we can identify the Walkley Awards again by that density that occurs in the way that the data is represented in the visualisation.
Nikki, what potential do you see the visualisations as having?
One of the things that I thought was interesting with the visualisations is being able to see just, checking up some of the webs, that you could actually see the connections that you could see on the visualisations and linking them back to people. You could actually see that those women who were leaders and really full-on leaders were ones that had the fingers in more pies, okay? And so it is very powerful in that regard to actually to be able to look at and see, okay, this person or this thing is very well connected. What does that mean in terms of our understanding of her as a leader? It's very hard to get in underneath the data, as it's presented, flat and textually, to see how those links might work to enable and facilitate leadership potential. And I think that the visualisations will be helpful for that, yeah.